Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and in today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, some new laws for smokers and vapors, and of course, we're also going to talk and have a look at the Eskom situation. Apparently, there's been some sabotage, and ladies and gentlemen, later on at 8 p.m., I'm going to be joined by Paratus or Gideon Joubert, as well as Ian Cameron, as we chat about gun laws in South Africa, where you guys get to ask them any question you want about the gun laws in South Africa. We're going to debate some other things. Well, not debate, we're going to discuss rather some other things around the gun laws and also look at the crime stats in South Africa and talk about the recent rise in crime in South Africa. All that and a lot more coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Yeah, that's what happens when I don't prepare properly. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are well. I am feeling good. Good. I'm just getting some things sorted out before I make another mistake. So anyway, let's ignore that. Pretend that didn't happen. But later on this week, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursday, there is Comedians versus the Headlines. We're going to have a special guest. Paul Lee will be joining us once again. So looking forward to that. We've got some crazy headlines are popping up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be great. As always, Gavin, thank you so much for tuning in. Great to have you here. Umlongo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It says, hello, Bradley Murray is also here. Hello, Bradley. Nice to see you. And Voot is also here saying, how's it? I'm good. How are you, Bradley? Good. I love the picture of your dogs. If they are your dogs. It could be a random photo. But yeah, nice picture. Anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started on all that. I just wanted to mention very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, please, if you're feeling generous, you want to support the show, give a Sasa Chat, as we call it on this show. It's actually Super Chat, Sasa Chat, whichever one. If you're watching this after the fact, after we're live, you can give a Super Thanks or a Sasa Thanks if you're feeling generous, or if you really wanna support the show, feel like you're contributing all the time, then please consider becoming a member to this channel, where there are a lot of exclusive perks, ladies and gentlemen. Just for the members only, you get access to a very exclusive group on WhatsApp, and some other perks as well. When I do a one-man show, ladies and gentlemen, you can also get some exclusivity there. And a lot of other stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And probably I'm going to add more stuff as time goes by. So Bradley clarifying that they are his dogs. Awesome. They look amazing. Anti-Marxist ZA, good to see you here. And Gavin saying smash the like button. And if you enjoy, please subscribe. Yes, please, guys, please subscribe. Joe Emilio, Voot's a member. Yes, Voot is a member. Thank you so much. And Matthew, of course, in the house. Matthew Dixon, of course, my resident troll, who, thank goodness, doesn't live in Cape Town. Ladies and gentlemen, how was your weekend? How are things? My weekend was very chilled. Went to the gym again today. It is day 31 for those of you who may be keeping count. And if you want to keep an eye on my journey, please go to the TikTok link in the description below, where it says Joe's Journey. And if you have TikTok, you can follow. My journey there. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you tuning in, Ian and Gideon Joubert will be joining me at 8 p.m. We're going to be talking about, like I said, gun laws. And I want you guys to ask questions as well. I think that's the most important thing. I would love for the audience to ask as many questions as possible. It's really like a Q&A session. We will be talking about other things, some topics that I've prepared to chat with the guys. Definitely want to get an update on the DNA backlog, if there is any. Going to talk about the recent, what seems to be, I'm just, from what I can tell, all right, just from all the posts that are happening on social media, there seems to be, I'm not, don't quote me on this, I'm not saying this is fact, just there's a perception, there's an impression rather, that farm murders have gone up in recent weeks, if not months. So I'm going to be talking to Ian and Gideon about that, see if they have any information on that. And of course, we're going to be talking about the horrible, I don't know what is going on, guys, in South Africa with these horrible, and I don't want to say the word on YouTube because you do get flagged, not in a bad way. It's not that the YouTube's going to take me down, but they either demonetize the video, or you get like a yellow demonetization. So I'm not going to mention the word, but I'm going to try and say it in a different way. Sexual assault of the worst kind. The worst kind. And I don't know why in South Africa it seems to happen with children. Children being the victims, that is. Horrific, disgusting behavior. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how in the past few weeks there's been a 4-year-old that was a victim to sexual assault. It baffles me. It really baffles me that is happening. There was a serial sexual assaulter who was caught. Thank goodness he was caught. Over 15 counts of sexual assault of the worst kind. And yeah, it's horrible, man. It's horrible. We're going to talk a bit about that. I don't want to dwell too much on that tonight. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a rough. It's going to be a rough ride, I think, when Ian and Gideon join. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good news to share, but we'll try and make do, ladies. But that's what's coming up, 8 p.m. Ian and Gideon joining me on the show. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And while I'm talking about that, let me just. Sorry, guys. Let me just send a message quickly. Okay, I don't know why my thing isn't connecting. Anyway, sorry about that. It's because we have so many leftists. I don't know how that. I don't think that's the problem. But I don't know what could be the problem, to be honest. And the evil is real, yes. It can be, most certainly can be. Anyway, so I just got 2 headlines for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to discuss with you guys. Saw them and I thought they were interesting. I think we'll start with the more something that's affecting us all right now. Which is load shedding, ladies and gentlemen. Load shedding has become a thing. Rumors were going around that it was going to be permanent. We don't know yet. But this is new. Suspected sabotage took down entire Eskom power stations. Well, I think we can say that load shedding is going to be here for a while. That's for sure. So apparently, Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter has revealed that the power utility was forced to take all 8 units at the Camden power station offline due to human error. Okay. Blah blah blah. And then Gordon is accusing, implying that there's sabotage work here. The Eskom's not really working with the state or whatever the case. But which was mentioned here. So Eskom blah blah that the power utility is investigating the case of human error, and that the appropriate disciplinary action against the employee would follow. So what happened was an employee basically pressed the wrong button. Yeah, well, sort of. I mean, we have lost the entire company due to an employee opening the wrong valve in the process, contaminating all of our demineralized water supply that we need to run the steam turbine. So that's a big oops. That's a really big oopsie. I can see where Gordon's coming from here, like, because I mean, like, this is routine, right? This is like, you should know what you're doing. Been doing this for how long now, So there's questions of sabotage. The employees are unhappy. Stuff like that is happening. So yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's sabotage in Eskom? I mean, on some level, I wouldn't be surprised if there is, to be honest. But yeah, it's. I mean, Eskom's investigating. Blah blah blah. So apparently, the outage is not the first time of sabotage or human error reported by Eskom. There was the blunder of Medupi. We all know that one. Remember this? Billions of rand. There we go. Medupi's repairs would cost. Well, the repairs for Medupi would cost 2.5 billion on top of the billions that they've already spent to build that damn power station. Right? 7 days later, and now they need another 2.5 billion. Why am I not surprised? So yeah. I don't know, man. I think some of it may be sabotage. Absolutely. Either that or this guy just needs to get fired, and just don't let him near valves again. Can we just agree on that? Keep the guy away from valve. Like, you had one job, dude. You had one job. But yeah, this is ridiculous now. So obviously, load shedding is going to be here for a while. Let me see what you guys are saying. Well, I hope they fired him. Well, they're investigating, so he probably will be fired. I mean, yeah, it's not an oops. That is pretty much, yeah. Sabotage is common in Eskom. That's also true. It's very true. The ANC can get nothing right. Well, the ANC is just blaming Eskom now, so they're kind of washing their hands of the situation. Like, Eskom's not working with us. Look at them. So yeah, yes, the 2.5, of course, they didn't get enough. So yeah. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. But that was 2 days ago. So this was on Saturday that this happened. So we'll see what comes of it. All right. This next headline, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have any smokers in the house? Whether you smoke cigarettes or you smoke vapes. Because I got some potentially bad news. Potential bad news for the smokers out there. I used to vape. I also used to be a smoker. Quit. It's been 2 years. No? 3 years. I forget. It's been a while. I mean, I never really smoked that much before that. I would smoke casually. And that's how it starts, right? That's how it starts. Because like you go out when you're young, 20s, you're drinking at bars and stuff. Then your friends are smoking. You cup of smoke, you have a beer in the one hand, and I don't know why, but smoking and drinking just goes together, right? So I mean, even now, sometimes when I have like a brandy and Coke or a beer, right? I have a moment of like a craving. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a trigger, maybe. Like, I have that first sip and I'm like, oh, a smoke would go so well with this right now. And then I get over it and then move on. So, yeah. I don't do either since COVID. Oh, okay. That's good. I smoke professionally. Vape is for the ladies. Hey man, there's some pretty cool vape guys out there. I'm not gonna lie. Like those tricks that they do in the big circles, and like there's tournaments now. Like, and they get paid a lot of money. Like that's some crazy stuff, man. You can't do that with cigarettes, man. You can't do that with cigarettes. But everybody teaches on. Anyway, the news that I have for the tobacco enthusiasts out there, and the vape enthusiasts out there, or the water. The water mist, the mist guys out there. Total ban on public indoor smoking. No more branded boxes. Tobacco plan moves closer to law. Okay, so there's a tobacco plan here, right? And they want to do away with the branding. Okay, I'm going to go through this. But there's a part in this article, right? There's a part in this article that I'm like, what the like, okay, let me first find it. Hold on. I want it to be a bit of a surprise when I tell you, because you guys won't believe this. You guys will not believe what they want to try and instill, basically, in make it law. And I have to find it. Where is this thing now? Sorry, I'm just reading it because I want to find it, and I don't want to read it out loud because then it will ruin the craziness of this. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, so some of you might agree with this, because I'm in two minds about it, to be honest, but I would like to get your guys' take on this, okay? So one of the things they want to try and do is smoking in a motor vehicle or any enclosed private space while in the presence of a non-smoker or child will also be prohibited, as will smoking in an enclosed common area of a multi-unit residence like a stairwell or passage. Yeah, what do you guys think of that? Like, I just saw Bradley's comment now. Booze is your worst enemy for quitting. I know. Coffee too, man. Like if you're one of those people that wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee and a cigarette, like my wife. Like, yeah. But she doesn't smoke anymore. Like she also quit. But that was difficult for her, was the mornings. The coffee. Yeah. So yeah, it's like watching soccer. Oh, come on. Soccer's not a women's sport, man. Come on. Everybody loves soccer. Even I like soccer. Okay, I only really watch soccer when there's the World Cup. Anything else I don't watch. Yes, vaping does count. This is for vaping and smoking. Okay? So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I understand why they don't want the kids to inhale the secondhand smoke. I get it. I really, really do get it. But at the same time, it's like, really? You're going to really enforce that, like, in people's own cars? You know what I mean? Like, I own my car. If I want to smoke in my car and my child is there, uh, I mean, yes, people can start calling me irresponsible or whatever, but again, it's my life. But again, like, I should be a responsible parent, maybe not smoke around my child. I would say that, like, try, because I don't think smoke is healthy for a child. I really don't. Um, but I mean, that's me, like, look, I don't smoke anymore. It's a non-issue for me. But I mean, I still can't believe that they want to try and do this. And there was one other thing that I thought was very interesting. I'm trying to see. South African laws around cigarettes and electronic vaping products are one step closer to becoming much stricter as the bill in 5 years, blah, blah, blah. There's a tighter regulation, blah, blah, blah. System, South African government, tighter controlled, extends the sale of advertising. So what's going to be interesting is they want to deter people, especially children and youth, from using tobacco products, encouraging existing users to quit, and protect non-smokers from tobacco smoke exposure. Just tax the damn thing. Like, that's what you have to do. Like, I mean, I know they tax it already, but if they make it even more, they make so much more money. I know I'm giving them ideas. It's a bad idea. If ANC, if you're watching, don't do what I just said. So blah blah blah. Very last. So, at the very least, the packaging must have a uniform plain color texture and be the same size, type, and shape. So basically, it's going to be a white box. Well, actually, it's not going to be a white box. It's still going to be graphic, like very disgusting pictures of lungs, of smoker lungs, and all that stuff. But the logos. So you're not going to have Marlboro logo or Stuyvesant logo or Lucky. What's it? Lucky. What was it? Lucky something. Can't remember. Lucky something. You're not going to have any of those logos. It's just going to be plain black text. Uniform. Kind of like communism. And that's how it's going to be. See, health warnings also form pictures or graphics will dominate the packaging. And just how detailed manufacturer branding elements will allow, blah, blah, blah. So, you won't see cigarettes in stores. What the hell? I didn't read that part. It's not just the bill that retailers and wholesalers won't be allowed to display tobacco products, but may make the product available to consumers upon request, provided that the requester is not a child. And it's like prohibition for like cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like, now you got to go to like the till at your Pick and Pay or wherever. Be like, hey man, listen, do you have not the wacky one, the normal one, the old school one? Do you have the normal tobacco? Do you got that? And then the guy's like, yeah, sure. We've got Marlboro, we've got Stuyvesant, we've got this Lucky one, we've got Chicago. We also got New York. No, there's no New York. I don't know. I was just going with something. Oh my word. Cigarette vending machines will be outlawed. So when you go to like a club, right? And there's the cigarette vending machines. You put like a bit of money in and it's like, you get like a packet of whatever. Those are going to be outlawed. Like, I'm sorry, but some of this stuff is just ridiculous, man. I mean, how many people are really dying? How many children are dying? How many, like, those who don't smoke, okay? Like, is there a study on this? Is there a study that says, like, okay, X amount of people are dying from secondhand smoke? Like, I want to see this, because I don't think there's a lot of them. I think more smokers are dying from smoking than secondhand smokers. So there's really no reason to put this all into. I mean, like, this is just ridiculous now. Look at that. Why would you do that? There was another thing here, and I swear I read it, and maybe this wasn't the right article, but I could have sworn I read it in this one. Maybe it was a different article. But they where I read so it was under this section. I don't know where it went now. Traditional tobacco products, electronic nicotine are more commonly referred to as vapes. In all enclosed public, so in all enclosed public spaces, you're not allowed to smoke anymore. Same goes to smoking close to operable window, internal entrance, blah blah blah, enclosed public, enclosed, blah, 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 or in any public health minister empowered bill step privileges certain outdoor reduced blah blah smoking in motor vehicle enclosed private space. So enclosed private space, that used to say home. There was an article that said you were not allowed to smoke in your house while in the presence of a non-smoking child. How in the hell are they going to enforce that? How? Are we going to have like smoke police now? Is SAPS going to have a division of the smoke detecting, the I don't know, the smoke detector task force, right? Right? And they're just gonna knock on people's doors every now and again, like, hey man, I smell cigarettes. Are you smoking? This is not gonna be able to be enforced. No one's gonna really listen to it. So I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, enclosed private space does mean home as well. And I mean, like, here's the thing that annoys me, right? This is where the liberal in me kind of comes out. It's my house. It's my private house. If I want to smoke and there's a child there, that's my choice, okay? Yes, it may not be good for the child, but as a responsible parent, I will decide what to do, okay? Maybe I know it's not good for my child, and I'll walk outside and I'll smoke, all right? Or I won't smoke in the same room as the child. I don't know. It's not like I'm going to be, like, sitting there with the cigarette and blowing in the kid's face. Like, that's not how it works. This is just ridiculous. This is just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know how the hell is this going to be enforced. And then if you're driving, right, and there's like, they say child, right? So non-smoker. So a non-smoker or a child. Okay. So let's say for argument's sake, okay, so non-smoker, okay, a non-smoker. Do you know what this means? Do you know what this means, guys? A non-smoker, okay? That means that if you have a friend who's a non-smoker, okay, and they come into your house and they say, please don't smoke. You can't smoke. The non-smoker is in control of your private space. You have to listen to them. How crazy is that? I'll just kick them out. I will kick them out. I'd be like, leave. I mean, again, I don't smoke, but this is the kind of stuff that I would like. It just, even for smokers, I feel for you now. Like, I'm like, how why are we imposing these ridiculous rules? This was, you know what? NDZ was behind this. I'm pretty sure NDZ was behind all of this. I mean, this just has her name written all over it. Imagine that, man. I would be pissed, man. I'd be really pissed. Like, I wouldn't, if I was a smoker and I had non-smoking friends, they'd never be invited. Like, they would never be invited. Yeah. So, anyway. To defining where a person can or cannot smoke in South Africa, the bill also makes several sweeping changes to how tobacco products are packaged. Okay, yeah. I read that part already. I'm gonna have kicked people out for less. Let me see what some of you guys. It won't end with smoking. Yeah, well, that's also true. Maybe this is like a litmus test for something else. Drinking. What next? Drinking. You're not allowed to drink in front of people who don't drink. Like, I don't know. Well, what's next? More people die from drunk drivers. They are applying the rules to alcohol. Yeah. Well, those rules are also changing, Gavin. There's some new laws trying to become in. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Bradley. 100% correct on that one. No. Let's worry about the secondhand smoke for kids and non-smokers. That's gonna fix problems in South Africa, right? I mean, this is just absolutely bonkers, man. Absolutely bonkers. I would love to see how they implement this. I really would. Because, like, again, if you're sitting in a car, right? You're driving your own car. It's your freaking car, man. Okay? You're having a smoke. The person next to you is not having a smoke. And a cop sees that. Are they going to pull you over? And then they have to ask you, okay, so obviously you're a smoker, but your passenger, are they a smoker? And if the passenger says no, what then? Well, you're not allowed to smoke in front of a non-smoker, sir. Even if the non-smoker says, it's okay, it doesn't bother me, what then? What then? Yeah. Who makes this stuff? I don't know. I've told you, maybe it's NDZ. I think she's got a bee in her bonnet still about the whole smoking thing during lockdown. I don't know. This is ridiculous. So yeah. So yeah, those were the two headlines, ladies and gentlemen. As we are 25 minutes away from Ian and Gideon joining us. They'll be joining us shortly, just before 8 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a slow weekend for news. Last week was intense. EWC bill being implemented, and Julius Malema being found not guilty. Which reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, upcoming soon on the show is Mark Oppenheimer will be on the show, ladies and gentlemen. I think on the 10th of October. Just double check. I think it's next week, Monday, or the Monday after that. So we are going to be talking about the verdict of Julius Malema with the assault case. We're going to be talking about the hate speech bill. We're going to be talking, which you're going to want to listen into, by the way, because there's some also crazy stuff happening there. Because apparently now, if you offend someone, that's a problem. That's considered hate speech. I mean, okay, well, I'll get into it when Mark's on the show. We'll get into it. So there's that, and Mark and I are also going to be talking about the EWC bill. That's look, the EWC bill for a while is going to be a theme on this show. Just by the way, I'm doing a lot of stuff upcoming on that stuff because I'm trying to get to the bottom and get it as clear as possible as to what the hell's going on with the EWC bill, because at the moment it's passed and it looks like it's going to be passed again, and it will become law. But now the question is, when it is being, because there are organizations, AfriForum, DRSA. Actually, don't quote me on that. I'm speculating, but I think DRSA, AfriForum, IRR for sure, I know that, are going to contest the bill. Now, when the bill is being contested, I have a question for these guys. Does that mean that the ANC can implement this bill? Is it still, or do they have to wait until the case is sorted? And that's going to be a very long time. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow evening, a very special guest, Herman Ruas, will be joining me once again, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be talking about the EWC bill. And he says, get this, Herman Ruas says, this is tomorrow evening, ladies and gentlemen, Herman Ruas says we shouldn't actually worry about the EWC bill. South Africans should not worry about expropriation without compensation because, well, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow to find out why a South African farmer, specifically tobacco and other things. He farms other things. I think he farms crops. He does. Why a tobacco farmer / crop farmer in South Africa says expropriation without compensation should be the least of our worries in South Africa. So there you go. That's going to be a very interesting one. He's already explained it to me, but I wanted to explain it on the show. I asked him to come. He told me why, because I was very shocked. And he told me why, and I got to admit, man, he may have a few good points. So you don't want to miss that EWC, why we shouldn't really worry about it happening tomorrow. I'm going to get his point of view. I'm going to get some point of views from others. I'm going to get the point of view from Mark as well. He's more the lawyer guy. So it'll be very interesting to get his perspective as well. So looking forward to both those conversations happening tomorrow. And of course, Thursday is Comedians Roast the Headlines, ladies and gentlemen. Don't want to miss out on that. So Matthew Dixon says, if EWC comes through, I'm going to claim the union bills. Buddy, it's pretty much already through. Like, it's a lot of people who think that it's like pretty much 80% there. Interesting answer, I assume, Jeremy. Well, you got to tune in tomorrow, Gavin. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. I think you hearing it from a South African farmer as to why EWC is the least of our worry at the moment, then yeah. Yes, he has been spot on in the past. And I mean, he's got skin in the game, and this is a South African farmer. That's what he does. I've been to his farm. This is what he does for a living. He's been doing it for years, generational farming and stuff like that. He knows what he is talking about, and there's things happening, ladies and gentlemen, that it's kind of scary. But anyway, I'm not going to talk more about that. You got to tune in tomorrow to see what that is all about. I should get my tent ready. You're gonna join the Khoisan there, the Khoisan King. Why don't you just go to the Khoisan King, hang out with him? There's a Khoisan King right now at the Union Buildings. Shack with him. Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. EWC bill, very mixed opinions so far. Some saying that there's nothing to worry about. Others saying it's never going to be implemented properly. Others saying that there's still problems with the bill, and it's just a piece of legislation or bill that really doesn't do much. It's more of a PR stunt from the Cyril faction in the ANC. I don't know. I don't know. When I read it, it's pretty worrying. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm gonna have many people on the show to talk about this and get to the bottom of is this really a problem? I mean, like, expropriation without compensation, that is a problem. No doubt that is a problem. But how worried should we be? And I think on some level we should be quite worried. I really do. The ability for the government to just come in and take what you own is scary. Very, very scary. And could lead to far worse things. So, I watched, I think it was Martin van Staden, who said, I think we all understand that there were a lot of people in the past, especially in South Africa, that were moved, right? Previous government wasn't very nice. They repositioned them, or what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. The previous government just moved people to other places against their will, which is not right. I'll never say that that's right. But using this law to try and correct the past doesn't exactly fix the problem. It's essentially, you're doing the same thing that was done in the past in a way. So, because at the end of the day, if you come into, if the government comes into your house and says, I want to take your house without any compensation as well, and there's nothing you can do about it, well, you are going to be relocated because you have to find somewhere to live. And the problem with that is, if you go to another place, what if the government does it again? You know? So yeah, it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people, and I understand that, yes, restorations need to be made, but there is a bill right now for restorations, and a lot of people, I think 1.8 million people have already used that and proven that they were moved forcibly in the past and offered land or money, and most of the people took the money. So, I mean, there is this law in place at the moment that can, if you have been a victim of this horrible thing that happened in the past where you were forcibly moved out of your house, if you can prove it, you can get money or your land back. It's already there. So this is nothing more than a horrible bill that is being tried to be pushed through, and I do believe I stand more on the fence of that it's for Cyril and his campaign. Remember, the elections are coming up for the ANC to choose the next president, and maybe Cyril is just using this as a PR opportunity. So yeah. Well, we'll talk more about it in the coming days, ladies and gentlemen. In about 15 minutes, Ian, Cameron, and Gideon Joubert will be joining me as we talk about gun laws in South Africa. I want to remind you guys that I will be uploading, the hour-long conversation of me and Ian and Gideon on its own in the week, so look out for that. If you want to share that conversation, you're more than welcome to. People don't have to watch a whole 2-hour show; they can just watch the interview itself. So remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, you can also become a member to this channel, and if you're feeling generous, give a super chat, man. Why not? Be greatly appreciated. I mean, even Cyril Ramasaurus would appreciate it, you know? He says, can you spare a super chat, or sasa chat, as we call it, on this channel? He also asks that you hit the like button, you know? And don't forget to subscribe as well, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, Cyril Ramasaurus, for helping me out. It's very kind of you. Looking forward to Ian and Gideon. Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. Well, I say that with a bit of hesitancy because, yeah, we're going to be talking about some tough things, man. The DNA backlog, I want to get an update on that. And I will remind you guys again, for those of you just tuning in, when Ian and Gideon come on, please, guys, ask as many questions as you want. It is kind of a Q&A session with the guys. If you have questions about the gun laws, ask away. You know, stuff like, what do we do if X happens? What do we do if someone breaks in and this happens? Anything like that. Or just in general gun laws, you know, like, are we allowed to conceal carry, open carry? You know, don't ask, how do I get a gun license? Because all we're going to say is get in contact with Ian or Gideon, and they will get you on your way. Like, we're not going to go through the whole process of licensing during this show, but we'll talk about other things. Situations. What do you do in certain situations? What does the law say about those situations? And of course, like I said, DNA backlog, we're going to talk about the latest crime stats. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to touch on the recent increase in farm murders that have been happening. Now, I say increase, don't quote me on that, please. It just seems, I get the impression from all the social media posting that farm murders seem to be on the rise. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying that that's fact. It's just the impression I'm getting. I'm going to ask Ian and Gideon to clarify. They would know. And of course, we're going to talk about sexual assault of the worst kind that is happening in South Africa at the moment. There seems to be really bad things happening. And oh my word, Deborah Olivier, finally tuning into a show. I have not seen your name in ages. I have missed you so much. Where have you been, Deborah? I feel so betrayed because I see you on everybody else's stream. I see you on Chris's stream. I see you on the Daily Friends stream. I see you on... Okay, you don't like Ronaldo. I see you on Big Daddy Liberty stream. I just can't. I feel like you're mad at me. I'm kidding, Deborah. But seriously, Deborah, I sent you an email. Please, Deborah, send me an email because maybe I didn't have the right email. So please, if you can, Deborah, send me an email. I'm going to pop it in the chats very quickly. So please just say hi because there's some news, Deborah. We have a group. We have a group, ladies and gentlemen. And Deborah, if you want, you can be part of it. You are a member to this channel, which I'm greatly appreciative of. So there is a WhatsApp group now, which you have exclusive... you can become part of exclusively if you want. Or there's the Telegram open channel. If you want to hide your number, you can also, that's free. Anybody can be part of that. It's the links in the description. You can be part of that group as well. There are rules, nice rules to the group. Like we're trying to be respectful of people's time. You don't like message too early, don't message too late, don't spam, that kind of stuff. So yeah, Deborah, please get in contact, tell you more about what's happening with the memberships, and if you want to join that's cool. If not, no hard feelings either. You don't have to. But yeah. And there's Gavin sharing the Telegram open group. Thank you, Gavin. So if you want, go check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Umlungu is saying, I don't even think Ronaldo likes Ronaldo. Why does Ronaldo get so much hate? I'm trying to get the pod bros on my show. It's going very slow at the moment because they're all busy. It was easier during lockdown because nobody had anything better to do. But now they're all busy. Ramon's busy. Ronaldo's busy. Jim's busy. I reached out to them, like I said, hey guys, would you like to? And they said yes. Like they are keen to do it. It's just a matter of finding a date so that I can have them on. So that might be a while, but that is in the works. So Ronaldo will be on the show again soon. So yeah. I was just teasing you, Deborah. But okay, cool. Then please send me an email. I did pop my email in the chats, but there it is in case you missed it. So please just pop me an email, just say hi, and then I'll send you all the other details. I'll reply to that and send you all the other details because perhaps maybe I had the wrong email or something. So yeah, that'd be greatly appreciated, Deborah. Cool. Oh, look who is in the house. Cameron and Beverly Dutois. Good to see you again, Beverly. Good to see you. And Cameron saying, looking forward to what Ian Cameron has to say. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He just said it again. He just busted. You really wanted me to read that, didn't you? Yes, Cameron. One day, Cameron will be on the show, ladies and gentlemen. One day, when he is of age, which I think is still 20 years away. No, I'm kidding. It's not that long. So yeah. Oh man. Anyway. That's a bit harsh. That's a little, I mean, maybe okay, I'm gonna just, like, Ronaldo's a friend, guys. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Ronaldo is a friend of mine. I've met him a few times now. In person, he's a nice guy. He knows what I think of his streams. I don't watch them a lot myself. But that's his thing, and he's making it work for him, and he's got his followers, and it works for him. That's all good for him. But we're still friends, and I'm not gonna badmouth Ronaldo, or Ramon, or Sichle, or who's the other one? Germ. So yeah, thank you, Deborah. I got your email. Cool. I'll reply to it tomorrow, Deborah. Thank you so much. All right. So yes, in 2024. Okay. Well, there you go. Hopefully, I'm still streaming in 2024, and you can be on the show. You probably want to be part of the comics roast of the comedians roast the headlines, which you are more than welcome to. Jane Khaled saying, hi, hey, Joe. Oh, hey, Jane Khaled. How are you doing? I don't think I've seen your name on my stream before, so thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And Herman J. Ruiz saying, am I too late to the show? No, you're not. I do 2-hour shows now. The first hour is me chatting to the audience, and then the second half will have my guest, which, by the way, this is the same Herman Ruiz, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be on the show tomorrow evening. You don't want to miss it, like I said earlier. We're going to be talking about why you shouldn't, and Herman, don't tell anyone in the chats, please, because I want them to come watch the show tomorrow evening. But why EWC should be the least of your worries in South Africa. Herman Ruiz, a South African farmer in South Africa, will explain why EWC should be the least of your worries in South Africa. It's going to be a very interesting chat. I'm very much looking forward to it. And like I said, Herman, tell people to come watch tomorrow evening to find out why you say that. And like I said, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, my guest at 8 p.m., Herman Ruiz, joining me tomorrow evening. And for those of you just tuning in, Mark Oppenheimer on the show not tomorrow, sorry, 10th of October, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about Julius Malema's recent case of assault and the verdict on that. We're going to talk about the EWC bill. We're going to be talking about hate speech. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a very interesting chat. Herman asking, does that mean I have to shave? I'm going to leave that up to you, man. If you want to look like a wolf man, I think it's going to add more dramatic effect. Anyways, Joe Eskom said I can't watch the show tonight, and I will be a white oak in a blackout at 8 p.m. Okay. Yeah. He is great guy. I met him twice now. Yeah. Oh, I got nothing bad to say about it. Yeah. So I can see people are tuning in to catch. Crap. Should probably open up my line. They're probably trying to call in right now. There we go. All right. So we have one of the guests in the green room at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, who I can see is busy getting set up. Sorry. So what I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take a quick break. Hopefully it's less than 5 minutes. We're going to wait for our other guest to join. And once our other guest joins, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't talk. We will be back. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, Ian Cameron from Action Society joining me, and Gideon Joubert is also joining me. For those of you who don't know, Gideon is on YouTube. He goes under the name of Paratus. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, please don't ask questions about things like how do we get a license for a gun. I would like this to be an open question about just the laws in general. If you have certain questions about situations, please keep those questions coming in. We will address them. We're going to talk about some other things as well, but it is a stream on the South African gun laws. So any question you have about South African gun laws, please ask, whether it's a situation or a circumstance or what have you. But in terms of getting a gun license, contact Gideon, contact Ian. Rather, we're not going to go into that whole thing right now on the stream. But you can contact those guys and they will happily help you. Anyway, we're going to be right back after these quick messages. Hello, it's break time, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about becoming a member to this channel. So why should you become a member to this channel? It's a great question. You're going to get a lot of exclusive perks. I mean, if I have a one-man show, for example, you're going to get up to 50% off on the tickets. You get exclusive access to the Joe Emilio Show WhatsApp group. You also get access to other things, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know more, go to the join button at the bottom of this video to see all the information on becoming a member. At least subscribe to the channel. If you like what you're seeing so far, subscribing is always free. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to the show.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right, and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right, and see life do what you want. So give me all the scars, I'm a human being. Cover them with tattoos so you can't see. Knew it from the start, you had problems with me and the things I could be, I just wish I had seen. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right, and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right, and see life do what you want.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and as you can see on either side of me is Ian Cameron from Action Society and Gideon Joubert from Paratus. Or which hat are you wearing tonight, Gideon? Is it Paratus or DRC?
Let's wear the Paratus hat because this is a firearm discussion, right? So, very much apt for that particular one.
Fantastic. Gents, thank you so much once again for joining me on the show. I am sorry that it took us so long to organize this. For those of you who don't know, we were trying to have this stream for like the longest time, but load shedding and other things got in the way. But finally, we are here, and very excited to chat about the gun laws in South Africa. We're going to talk about some other things as well, which I think will, go in and out of the topic. But like I said at the beginning before we went on the break, ladies and gentlemen, please, this is an open forum for you guys to ask questions about gun laws, specific situations. anything you are curious about the gun laws in South Africa, please ask away. Don't ask about licenses. If you want to know how to get a gun license, you can contact these guys at any time and they will help you out. Links to their Twitter and other things are in the description below, so you can easily get a hold of them and ask about gun licenses. So, boys, let's start with Ian. Ian, what is the most common question you get about gun laws in South Africa? Let's start there.
It's probably not a comment as much as it is people saying that you shouldn't do it because you would probably get arrested if you were to defend yourself, that type of thing. So it's more a negative approach. But I think it's because so many people are so demotivated by the whole firearm process. So I think that's the main thing. And then obviously a lot of people say, but you wait too long for a license. Those are probably the things that come up most for me. Oh, and a lot of people ask, when can you shoot? That's like the major thing. A lot of people want to know, when can you shoot someone? It's almost like they want someone to give them permission to shoot someone.
Yeah, you have to be a cop to have that permission. In a way, but yeah, no, that's interesting because I'm applying for my gun license. I know, Gideon, I've been terrible. I will get to it, I promise. But getting a gun, for me at least, is not a question of, oh, when can I shoot someone? It's more like protection, right? I mean, that should be, especially in South Africa, that should be where everybody's mind should be. Is you get a gun so that you can protect yourself, because unfortunately, SAPS is not that reliable in South Africa. But Gideon, you've been a huge ambassador of owning firearms. You work at a gun store, unless that's changed recently. I don't know. But what are some of the common questions you get about the gun laws in South Africa?
So I'm very much still at the dealership, helping out, volunteering part-time, CHS Guns and Ammunition in Somerset West. They're great people. They're very friendly. Hey, they tolerate me. And I'm not a great employee. So, I mean, big shout out to Aziza and co running the show there. And we get so many questions, Joe. And I think Ian touched on some of the most, sort of pertinent and common ones pertaining, is it even, we get asked often, can you get a license for self-defense in South Africa? The answer to that is definitely yes. Is it harder to get a license for self-defense than any other section, whether it's, sport or hunting? No, it definitely is not. Are you going to get arrested if you shoot someone in self-defense? Well, actually, the correct technical term is private defense. Let's just call it self-defense for the sake of semantics. No, not necessarily. It's one of those yes or no questions. Every defensive situation people get into is entirely unique. You can't base a conclusion on one situation or draw meaningful conclusions from a series of situations you've observed in the media, the limited information that's published there, and say, well, according to what I read in the newspapers, if I defend myself with a gun, I'm definitely going to get arrested. You're not. I wasn't arrested after my defensive shooting. Most of the people I know that have had defensive shootings were not arrested. Some were taken into custody temporarily, but they didn't spend time in the cells. It depends on the degree of understanding and competence of the investigating officer on the scene, as well as how they read the situation there, okay, as well as your behavior. There's too many variables there to give you a recipe from. I have a small guide published on my page about what to do, a very simplified sort of basic checklist of what to do after a defensive shooting, just to guide people through it, give a vague idea. But here's another thing. You stand a chance of being arrested if you run someone over on the freeway, even though that person is running across the freeway illegally. You stand a chance of being arrested if you defend yourself with a knife or a blunt object, or even strike someone with your fist. Every single thing you do out there that pertains you projecting force onto another human being, even if it's 100% justified, runs the risk of you getting arrested for it and having to please explain afterwards. That's just a fact of life. And there's no difference in our country and any other country. The same rules count for the United States. In fact, your self-defense laws and legislation are way worse in countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand. I'm not 100% sure how they are in Germany and Austria, but in the Anglosphere countries, specifically those ones, you can get into a lot of trouble just for projecting any force at all in self-defense. So we actually have it, in comparison, quite rational here. But yeah, those are just touching on some of the more common sort of questions and queries.
No, that's very good information as well. I do have some questions coming in, so we'll take them. Herman Ruas asking, I have a question for your guest. What would happen if I use my Section 15 rifle to defend my neighbor if he was or is attacked? Who wants to tackle this one?
I'm happy to go.
Yeah, Gideon, you go first.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. So the law is actually quite clear. It doesn't differentiate between sections and their use, just their purpose for licensing. So if you license that gun for hunting, you have told the police that your primary purpose for owning it is hunting, right? That doesn't mean you can't use it for anything else. In fact, the Act clearly states that it may be used for any lawful purpose where it is safe or appropriate to do so. Now, lawful private defense is a lawful purpose. And South African legislation works this way: that which is not expressly prohibited by it is allowed. Okay, we can argue semantics, but for the most part, like, the law doesn't care about the section of the gun license. Think about it this way: if you are attacked by three guys and in the struggle you grab one of their guns off them and you use that gun to defend yourself, are you going to be in more trouble because you didn't have a license for the gun that you took off the guy attacking you and then used it? Or if you used a kitchen knife from your drawer, you didn't have a license for that either. And I'm sure you didn't tell Verimark when you ordered it, no, this is my self-defense kitchen knife. This is not, I'm not using this to cut onions and tomatoes. So we must be careful to not sort of get sucked into very circular arguments about use. Remember, the gun's just an object. Its use, if you use a licensed firearm to rob a bank, you're going to be, or do a CITS, you're going to be in as much trouble as you would for that, on that specific charge, as you would for using an unlicensed one. You will still get charged with having an unlicensed firearm in the event of you doing that, but that's not the point. The point is, yeah, it is perfectly legal, Herman. Long story short, to use your Section 15 to.
All right, Ian, before you answer that question, I think this question is also related in some way. It comes in from Sean. He says, can one use a firearm, i.e. semi-auto rifle shotgun, for home defense if it isn't registered with SAPS as a defense weapon? So I think it's a similar question. So you can take this one, Ian.
Yeah, well, I think Gideon answered it perfectly. The point is that if the threat is imminent, then you need to be able to defend yourself. So it doesn't actually matter what you use. In fact, I would go as far as saying it doesn't even matter if it's a firearm or not. You use whatever you can to save a life, and that's the point. The question I always say to people, you ask yourself is, would you take a life to save a life? And I think that's the principle. If you can justify taking a life to save a life of an innocent victim or of a victim, then that answers your question, no matter what the tool is that you use.
And what if, Sean continues, what if the firearms are registered under his name? Could my wife use them in the home for self-defense?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've actually done is we've even had insurance underwritten exactly for that purpose, that your whole family can defend him or her or themselves. It again comes back to the point of, to what end would you go? To what means would you use to save a life? I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be legal for that person to walk around. Say, for example, I can't walk around with Gideon's firearm because I'm not licensed for that firearm. But the point is, if I was at Gideon's house with him and his family, and there's an imminent threat, and I were to use Gideon's firearm to safeguard someone or something, then there's nothing wrong with that.
All right. I also want to ask you, Ian, on this. I'm going to also ask the same question to Gideon. So, you guys talk a lot about imminent threats, right? So, if there's something that's harmful that's going to happen to you, your life's in danger, you can't defend yourself. But there's an interesting bill that's trying to be passed in Parliament, or a change or amendment to a bill. I think the trespassers bill or something like that. But basically, the law, if it was implemented, would now say that you have to warn an intruder that they're on private property before you do anything to protect yourself, or basically alarm them that they're on private property. What are your guys' view on this new trespassers bill? And do you have any comments on it? Ian, we'll start with you.
Yeah, look, a lot would need to happen for that to be implemented. The problem with it is it contradicts so many other things. So it wouldn't really make sense to me personally. But that being said, I guess we shouldn't be naive. Anything is possible, as we can see with something like expropriation bill, etc., etc. I mean, maybe that's a discussion for another day, because there's also a lot of things we need to consider when it comes to that. The point is just that I don't know how that, I don't understand how it would work. So it basically means that you can allow, it's not a threat if anyone just happens to walk into your house. So that being said, I know there was a video of a specific lady where she spoke about it, and I also think that went to an extreme where she also spread unnecessary panic instead of just giving people information to say, hey, be on guard, we need to watch this space. um, I personally wouldn't go into too much detail yet into an opinion, because I don't think it's developed far enough, but that's just my personal opinion. Um, but something I feel strongly about is that we shouldn't be naive, because if there's something that especially when it comes to the ANC, it's them taking an extreme stance when they don't have strong enough opposition. So it might be that we think it's impossible and therefore we don't take it seriously enough, and then they pass it, or they manage to pass it because they received no opposition. It's the balance of forces principle that we've spoken about so many times. It's the same with something like the Firearm Control Act amendments. As soon as there was a lot of opposition, they backed down. But I guarantee you, it wasn't a victory. It was just a temporary ceasefire. That's what it comes down to. They are going to take on the Firearm Control Act again. There's no doubt. I've got no doubt about that. And it's like name changes. And so the list goes on. So rather safe than sorry. I think we should consider it. But let's see, what the developments are.
Ian, anything to add?
Oh, you mean
Sorry,
Gideon?
Gideon.
No, I think Ian's spot on. I think we've kicked the previous amendment, proposed amendment bill into touch for a bit, and we'll probably have another year or two to bolster ourselves and our organizations to take it on when it surfaces again. And we've seen how addicted the ANC, and especially Becky Cele and the Civilian Secretariat of Police, are to really terrible ideas, and how immune they are to reality and the implications of life in South Africa. So no, I think we've if we do what our due diligence requires of us, we'll bat that one out the park again. But we cannot afford to rest on our laurels and ignore it and think we've now won. With regards to what was the first question, Joe? Just
the Trespassers Act.
Yeah, the Trespassers Act is very vague. That is one of the major problems with it. I mean, we've spoken to Jeepers about 3 or 4 different advocates regarding their opinion on it, and we've gotten 4 very, very different opinions on it. Either way, any piece of legislation that's that ambiguous and unclear and that difficult to understand and that has such broad implications, especially when you read it alongside and in conjunction with existing legislation, is not a good law. That thing should go straight back to the drawing board, reject it as a whole. If they want to amend it or bring in a new act, they need to write it in a way that's actually understandable in plain English, and that doesn't contradict existing legislation or precedents. Because it does. One of the major worries of it is if you have a trespasser on your property, it creates the impression, and whether or not this is correct or not is open to interpretation, which is 100% part of the problem, that you can't do anything to that trespasser. You need to phone the police, and they need to send a designated, not any police officer, a designated police officer specifically for the purpose of addressing the trespasser to your property under a specific time frame, which, unless we are all on meth, know for a fact that it is an impossible task and an ask from the South African police. Sorry, I don't mean to get snarky this early in the broadcast, but I mean,
No, it's all right.
there we go.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. I do think it's a stupid amendment, but I hope you guys are right that it won't go through. But like Ian said, you never know with these guys. But yeah, some more questions have come up. Umlungu asking, how many EDC firearms are we allowed? I'm not sure what EDC stands for.
Everyday carry.
Oh, okay. So Ian, how many are we allowed to have?
Well, you can actually have more than one, but it's very difficult to get. So I'll use an example. I had a ex-colleague who had a 9mm pistol as his self-defense firearm. And then because he lived in a rural area and was farming there, he was able to motivate an additional firearm for self-defense, and he managed to get an LM5, which is a pretty decent firearm. So to get an assault rifle of sorts, any kind of AR, for that is quite difficult. I mean, Gideon, I'm sure you'd agree. Most of the time, it would be for sport shooting. It's hell of a difficult. In fact, that's one of the only ones, but I mean, you work with it more closely than I do. That's one of the only people that I've actually come across that managed to do that in such a short space of time. So in most cases, you'd find most people have one self-defense firearm. But as I said, that ex-colleague of mine, actually, he managed to have two.
Ian, sorry, I don't know why I keep doing that. Gideon, anything to add?
We probably
slow down on the meth. You need to slow down on the meth.
So yeah, Ian's correct. You can only license one Section 13 self-defense firearm, and you can possibly get, if you manage to jump through all the magic flaming hoops, you can get a Section 14. But what most people do is they get a Section 13 and then they buy an identical pistol that they then license for sport, Section 15 or 16, which they then use as their sport shooting gun. So they're putting all the wear and tear on that one, not on their everyday carry gun. Plus, they're getting very familiar and competent with the firearm that they carry every day by having a carbon copy of it. And guess what? If something happens to your carry gun or something breaks or whatever, you've got a identical spare of that firearm in your possession already. So there's this old joke about when it comes to owning firearms in South Africa, one is none and two is one. So have two of the same. If anything happens to one, then you still have one that's serviceable and going, and you have time to address the failure in the other one. So that's how most people get around it. And
Okay.
because it's perfectly legal to carry a Section 15 or 16 firearm on your person, as long as you carry it according to the prescripts of the law, that's really just the easiest way of doing it.
All right. Gideon, I think I'm going to pass this question to you because I do know that you were campaigning for this quite aggressively at one point. He says, this is from Pierre Moret. He says, "Hi, has there been any progress on the license the person register the firearm campaign?"
So the progress on that is that I've gotten quite a couple of interesting questions from policymakers about it. The one was about 2 weeks ago, where someone asked me if the community would be sort of receptive for something like that, which I said, well, definitely yes. Whether or not there's a plan of incorporating that one day in the future when we get amendments again, I'm not sure. I think it's important to keep that topic alive and in the public discourse, because the only way policymakers really respond to what we want is if we keep putting pressure on them. The moment you don't, you're right, there's always something else that is vying for their attention or something more pressing. So I appreciate the fact that Pierre brought it up. I think please carry on pushing it. We need to carry on talking about it. And I think just highlighting it again in this conversation is a good idea. And that would be a great replacement. As opposed to licensing each and every gun that you own, you are the license holder like it would be for your driver's license. And then your firearms are registered to your name, like your cars are registered. And that's a fundamental difference, just to those who aren't aware of what that means.
Yeah. Well, I hope it goes through, because that one makes sense. I will pass this question on to both of you. We'll start with Ian. Any suggestions for gun clubs, ranges geared towards women in Cape Town? I'd like for my wife to be able to chat to like-minded people with kids, etc.
No, man, that's Gideon's department. Don't throw that to my side. I'm the guy that always carries the firearm, but never gets to the range. Gideon's the one that actually puts it into practice.
Oh, come on, Ian. I thought you would have gone to the range if you own a firearm.
I'm meant to go more often. I preach it, but I need to start practicing it more. So that's all my cards on the table. Nothing to hide.
All right. Gideon, any suggestions for Sean?
Okay. So there's actually, fortunately, there's quite a few women involved in the farm industry in Cape Town itself. Like, the obvious first shout out is to Aziza Scheiderreiter. She's the owner and proprietor of CHS Guns and Ammunition, Somerset West, and she's got a very strong personal stake in legally arming women and sort of getting them in the correct directions pertaining self-defense and practical training. So Aziza is a great first stop. She's super to speak to. I definitely would get in touch with her. Then, of course, there's the fine people at False Space Sports Shooting Club in Fishoek. They are very much geared similarly. They're a friendly crowd. I've spend a lot of time with them. They're good people. And listen, if I don't name a place, doesn't mean that they're not friendly. It's just I'm just speaking out of the ones I've had personal experience with. Somerset West Pistol Club, equally really good guys, good people there. And there's a few others that I might think of throughout the course of the evening, but those are the three that immediately spring to mind to me at the moment.
Cool. Right, so guys, I'm going to step away a little bit from the gun law. I'm sure we'll touch on it as the show goes on, but I really wanted to ask Ian, has there been any updates with the situation of the DNA backlog?
Phew. Joe, it's a real frustration, and it's a mess. I just actually got back from a community meeting of little Mia Botha that was murdered last week in Paul. And again, it's a matter where, according to my knowledge, the DNA results are still not back. And I mean, I know for her case specifically, it's not even been 2 weeks yet. But there are lists and lists of cases that I can name where they just come to a standstill. In fact, you'll remember the Krugersdorp rape cases a few weeks ago. Some of those DNA reports are also still outstanding. So. Very, very frustrating. It's difficult to say what the exact number is because I haven't received new figures for the last 3 months, but it's certainly not been resolved yet. Yeah, that's the answer I have for you. It's very frustrating. It's as though DNA gets downplayed by the current state as an extra add-on to help you combat crime, but it is, in my opinion, if not the most important, it's one of the most important crime fighting tools that we have. I mean, it directly links a perpetrator, and I can give you an example. I mean, this Mia Botha case, there have already been quite a few people that have been taken in for questioning, and they wanted to charge them but couldn't, etc., etc. And with her specific case, if we had a decent and a quick DNA process, we could have possibly already indicated who it was, depending on the DNA that was found on her body. And yeah, so very frustrating, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem that there's massive progress being made.
And just very quickly, 3 months ago, what was the number?
It was there were conflicting numbers, but it was about 130,000 cases. So it fluctuates. You need to, you'd have to go through the total amount of dockets. let me give you an example. If you're considering any kind of sexual offense, let's use something like rape, you'd probably have a minimum of 3 or 4 pieces of forensic evidence from which DNA needs to be sampled. So that gives you an idea. Let's say it's 5, and you multiply that number of X amount of thousands with 5, then it gives you the total amount of pieces of evidence that still need to be processed. So yeah, it makes it challenging. You see, the problem with this is that they still get hundreds of entries every single day, if not thousands, and crime is not on the decrease. I mean, a lot of the forensic scientists and other experts that are somehow involved in these investigations work 24/7 and need to drive kilometer after kilometer, thousands of kilometers, often using their own vehicles because the state don't have vehicles that work, and just for the cause, and then these things just end up not being processed in time.
Yeah, no, it's very heartbreaking to hear that there hasn't been any progress. But I think when this story first broke about the DNA backlog, we all kind of knew that the DNA backlog is probably going to be a problem for a very long time, and a lot of people are not going to see justice, which is, in my opinion, should be a crime against humanity, in my opinion. But yeah, Becky Taylor seems to get away with a lot. And speaking of which, I wanted to show Ian this comment that came through with regards to Ian not going to the gun range. Umlungu says, Ian is too busy arguing with the walking coat rack to go to the range. I thought that was just a bit of a funny comment. Thank you, Umlungu. All right, so very quickly, guys, I also wanted to chat a bit because you both are very familiar with the crime stats in South Africa. You guys keep a close eye on that stuff. Ian, you also keep a close eye on farm murders, as well as you, Gideon. And I wanted to ask you guys, because I don't know about you, all right? This is all going to be speculation at this point. But I don't know if you guys have noticed. Maybe you guys can shed some light on it. But from what I can tell on social media, at least, there seems to me, I'm not saying this is fact, I'm just impression I'm getting, there seems to be an increase in farm murders. Is this just me, or is there an increase in this crime? Gideon, do you maybe have some information?
Well, Ian's actually the great guy to speak to it, but from what I've seen, especially from Dr. Tiudiacher and Sai, and they were keeping a close eye on this, I think there were 7 farm murders in September, and there were a score in August as well, post that court, or rather that judgment that said no, kill the Boer is not a hate speech. There has been a tracked upsurge in it. Not just in attacks, but actual killings. So I think statistically, there's definitely an uptick in it, and it seems to be quite severe and noticeable. Yeah, and that's concerning, I think. But Ian is much closer to the coalface there than I am, and he'd probably be able to corroborate or tell me if I'm talking nonsense.
No, Gideon, you're absolutely right. Look, Joe, I was actually sitting comparing stats last week compared to previous years. Maybe after the next question, I'll quickly pull them up and I'll explain them to you. I just need to find them while Gideon tells us a story or something. But the point is there is an increase. But before I get to the increase, if we compare it to the same time period last year, it's not a massive increase, but I believe there is some kind of influence. Remember, I'm playing devil's advocate, so I'm trying to be as objective as I possibly can. What bothers me, though, is that many of these attacks happen. The frequency of the attacks happen in a very short space of time. One, that's problematic. Secondly, is the cruelty that goes along with them. And some of the victims that survived. Just this morning, I spoke to the son of a victim in Northwest, close to Moinoi, and one of his parents has now passed on after they were attacked a few weeks ago, yeah, it definitely feels like the brutality element is there. So Look, if we weren't to go and speak to every single perpetrator, it would be very, very difficult to substantially say that every single one is linked to that. But it's very important that we don't allow an atmosphere or an environment to be created where it's okay to do these things or where it's okay to say these things. And I think that's the problem that I have with the whole process. We've to be blatantly honest, I think that judge is just crazy. I think he's absolutely nuts. I just cannot see how you can justify that. Um, a few years ago, I can't remember if it was Germ. I think it was Germ, who did a cartoon
Yes.
where they said, "Give back our land." Um, and how did it go again? And then the reply was, "Stop raping our women," something like that.
Yes.
um, and it just cannot be. The double standard to this is just remarkable. I mean, if either one of us three, especially the fact that, well, Joe, you're almost white, but the fact that the three of us, if one of us would say something even close to killing a specific group, whether it's a professional group of sorts, whether it's a cultural group, a race group, we would be taken down, we would be torn apart. I mean, just think about the whole Becky Cele incident. If anything like that, happened, and I had to have said something like that in that moment, they would have turned the whole thing around on me. So it's a very much a an Animal Farm type of scenario where everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others. That's the kind of approach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just, I noticed it. It's very much worrying. You see a lot of these horrible incidences on social media, and mainstream obviously not talking about it much. I did see the tweets that Gideon spoke about from Sai, and I saw the speculation of is it maybe because of the ruling of Julius's court case. It's difficult to say. I think there needs to be more data on that, but at the same time, wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately.
If I may say something to add on, sorry, Joe,
Yeah, go
that I
ahead.
think is important is that, look, from the years, I don't work directly with farmer tax that much anymore, but from the years that I worked with it very, very closely, it was very few and far in between that we could directly see a political connection of sorts. It's an easily politicized topic where people jump to a certain conclusion, whether right or wrong, without really having seen a lot of the detail. And remember that, well, during those years, probably around 30%, sometimes up to 40% of victims weren't white people, and certainly weren't the farmers themselves. It could have been guests, it could have been workers, guests of workers, and so the list goes on. So it's important to say that. That being said, in areas where there were, for example, land grabs or unrest of some sort, you remember the whole Kulini unrest situation. During that time, there was a definite increase in violent attacks in the area. So we must consider the political influence, and in no country, I think, globally, would we be able to directly link it to a political organization. But again, it comes back to creating an environment for this type of violence to flourish, and that's the thing. We're literally we've built this kind of Garden of Eden, a little paradise for farm attackers, and it's literally being blown along or supported by certain politicians.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not okay for a politician that has the power and influence that Julius has to say things about killing a certain group of people. It's just not okay, and it feels like we're not learning from history. But What I would also like to move on to is I would like to get also your guys' opinion on, we've heard some horrible things happen in the past weeks as well, not just farm murders, but also, Ian, you touched on it a bit earlier, rape seems to be out of control. I mean, a 4-year-old was a victim to this heinous act. There's been some other young girls, women that have been victims. What is going on? Ian, I'm going to ask you this, and then Gideon, I'm going to ask you a gun question afterwards. So, Ian, what do you think is going on? Why all of a sudden is all these stories about these horrible crimes?
I think it's being reported a little bit more, and I think we're speaking about it more, but it's nothing new, to be honest, Joe. A few years ago, I read a report. I think it was the Institute for Security Studies, and I need to go check because I keep on referencing it, which doesn't really count because I can't remember where it's from. But they always said that only 1 in about 9 rapes are reported. So remember that a large amount of rapes and sexual offences, probably over 70% of them, are committed by offenders that are known to the victim, and therefore people don't speak out. And just last week I was in a meeting actually in Beacon Valley in Mitchells Plain, where we spoke with certain church leaders, where some of those church leaders told us that inside some of the churches they've got a problem that church groups try to hide these things that happen, and where the perpetrators are leaders in churches, etc., etc. But they hide it because of the leadership role that person plays in the church fraternity. And it's the same across the board. Sometimes it happens in a family space where people have literally told us, where we work with cases where people say they didn't speak up because it's the grandfather or it's the uncle or even the aunt or the grandmother that's involved, and they don't want to cause family problems, and therefore people don't speak up. But again, we're coming back to the political issue where we've created a space for this to flourish. Malema is allowed to assault someone on camera. It is assault. There's no doubt. It fits every single definition of common assault that I've ever seen or can think of. But because he's Julius Malema, he is allowed to do it, and it's considered not to be assault. And so with many other things, it happens. So these perpetrators walk free. They don't face real consequences, and eventually they just keep committing the same crime over and over again. Remember, we've got between 120 and 130 rapes reported per day. So it's far more if you consider that figure of only 1 in 9 that's actually reported. So it's probably over 1,000 a day, if not way more. I think it's way more. And therefore the problem that we have around that is far more serious than we think. And a lot of them are reported inside schools. So a lot of the perpetrators are actually school children.
Jeez. Wow. Okay. That last part was a bit scary. Yeah, Gideon, I was going to ask you a thing on the gun, and I will. I just, Ian brought up the assault case of Julius. I would really like to know your opinion on that case. What were your thoughts when you heard the judgment?
It blew my mind, to put it bluntly, in the sense of Ian was spot on, in the sense of it ticked every single box of what constitutes common assault. If you or I or anyone else had done that, we would definitely have been, I'm quite convinced, been found guilty of it and been appropriately sort of sanctioned and sentenced. Julius has gotten away with that. He's gotten away with numerous things in the past. I'm concerned about him getting away with that firearm case of his that's been postponed, even though the evidence there is equally damning. The thing that concerns me is there's an element of our criminal justice system that appears to go, great, we don't care how damning the evidence is, we're just not going to prosecute you, or we're certainly not going to condemn you or convict you, regardless of how strong the evidence is. And this is creating a sort of two-tier justice system where you have the ordinary people, us plebs, proles, serfs, whatever, that will be subjected to the full might of the law if we step slightly out of line. And then you have the political ruling class that are just absolutely bloody untouchable unless they happen to fall out of favor with the main cunane of the day, and that's concerning. Uh, yeah, the assault thing is just mind blowing. The rape element, just to add to what Ian said, to make it more depressing. So we have about 40 to 50,000 rapes reported annually. Reported, right? Underreporting is not factored in there. Only about 9% of those end up with a successful conviction. And I believe the latest statistics are even less than that. So your odds of going to prison if you rape somebody or being convicted of it is low. Like you have at least a 91% chance of getting away with it. I mean, that's mind blowing to me. Very cheap. Crime is very cheap in SA.
Yeah,
Bodily integrity is not protected at all.
and it in a way, like, just to show you how disconnected the police minister is from reality. He goes out and he says, "Oh, we're going to do this," and Cyril as well. I mean, Cyril, there was a huge march for GBV just before lockdown. I think a year or two before lockdown, or thousands of people went to Parliament, men and women, shouting and screaming. Cyril comes out and says, "No, no, no. From now on, men who rape, they're going to get like in prison, and we're going to do this." And what has been done? Nothing. As the stats that Ian and Gideon have now shared have shown you that nothing has been done. The ANC doesn't give a damn about the women of South Africa, and for that matter, the men as well, because men also are victim to sexual assault and are less likely to report it. So yeah, it's another pandemic in this country. But the gun question I wanted to ask you, Gideon. Now I know that I think there's an age limit to when a person can own a gun. I think it's 18, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But what do we do? Is there a way with all, like Ian said, a lot of the victims of rape are in school. Do we arm the teachers? Do we arm the kids? I don't think arming a kid is a good idea. But what do we do? What, in your opinion, what can we do with guns that might solve the problem?
So, let me give you the ideal example, which might not be shared by most of society, and it's you just take all the convicted rapists and you line them up in front of a ditch and you just shoot them. But since that's not acceptable and it's very unconstitutional and we can't do that, what we should rather than do, and I don't think guns in teachers' hands are going to solve this issue,
No.
nor guns in the hands of kids. This is a very definitely in the hands of adults. Like, my missus is armed, and numerous women in my life are armed, and that I'm aware of, and they would have the absolute correct mindset in dealing with a rapist. If you're having school kids raping other school kids, you've got a major bloody problem that the gun is probably not going to solve. But if you have a daughter at school going age, you definitely ought to instruct them and get them proper trained pertaining to defending themselves and their bodily integrity with extreme violence. And you don't necessarily need to take a gun to school to be successful at that, but there are ways and means. But it's also a case of where are these things happening? How are they happening in schools? And why is nobody being held responsible for this? It's also a matter of there's as much as the education system and teachers are failing us here, the parents are equally failing at this as to who is holding this school accountable, who's holding the people in charge of it, the governing body, the teachers, the counselors accountable for the complete mayhem. Because rape at school is just one element. I mean, I've heard horror stories, and Ian has seen this, of Cape Flat schools that have been so infiltrated with gang recruiting. I mean, that there are full-blown knife fights and assaults and drug dealing happening during school hours on school premises. And that requires a very strong, swift, and directed intervention in order to address that problem. But from a personal defense point of view, get your kids trained from a young age. And it starts with, and this is something that I'm going to be super racist and call this a white problem, because white people really have a problem here, is we are conditioned to be overly polite. We do not enforce our basic personal boundaries. It's especially a problem amongst English-speaking people because English-speaking people are very polite. They are raised, it's a cultural thing where you don't make a fuss. And the problem is sometimes you need to be a doers in order to avoid a situation from escalating to a point where it becomes dangerous to you. Um, Understand where your personal boundaries lie, and not just your personal boundaries pertaining to conversation, the personal boundary pertaining how close you are willing to let another person get to you, and enforce that boundary verbally by moving away, and if all other steps fail, then enforcing it through physical force if need be. But we need to develop a far healthier relationship with boundaries and the enforcement of them. That counts for kids and adults together.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And I would agree with you, Gideon. The best way is to probably train your kids to just be able to defend themselves, especially when you live in South Africa. Unfortunately, we shouldn't have to, but unfortunately, our SAP system is also failing. And Ian, I don't know if you have anything to add to that specific question, but you're more than welcome to.
No, I don't. I don't right now. I feel I might not say it as much as Gideon, but I feel the same in quite a few parts. Um, yeah, it's quite difficult as well. Let's rather say I don't think we always realize how serious the threat is around our children. I just want to come back to the children part first. Last week, I was at a meeting with a colleague of mine. With that meeting I mentioned earlier with the church leaders,
Yeah.
and we were literally sitting in the meeting, and the next moment, shots were going off outside, and they fired about. I think it was about we counted 24 or 25 shots, which is quite a bit, and walked to the door and kind of leaned outside, and this was in Beacon Valley, by the way, and there's been shooting there for the past week, and that was the first of 4 incidents just for that day. Tonight again, I just received a message that they shot a gang leader's brother in Hanover Park tonight, and all over the Cape Flats and outside parts of Muizenberg, there's this just gang wars going on for the last week. And a lot of these things, I'm coming back to schools now, happen so close to school. Last night in Vrygrond outside Muizenberg, an 18-year-old boy was shot in front of his dad's shack. He was in the crossfire. That Beacon Valley case, that shooting while we were sitting in that meeting, the school was about to come out. And as they were about to come out, the shooting started. So all the children had to stay inside. So the violence is a very serious issue. And just last week, I think just for September, Bonteheuwel alone, 13 people were shot. So I mean, a lot of it is gang related, but still, the point is there's a threat for crossfire for many of the kids and other innocent people that often get hurt. So very, very serious problem, and yeah, I might be broadening the discussion, but I think there's a lot we don't take note of. We've kind of come to a point where we've normalized certain parts, violence in certain areas. We kind of said, yeah, it's just another Cape Flat shooting, or just another Inanda shooting, or just another this or that. But the point is that we should never consider that normal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It shouldn't ever be normal. What's the stats? 60 odd people died a day in South Africa.
71, yeah. 3 per
It's
hour.
gone up. It's gone up now. 71 people die. Yeah, that's not normal, and it never should be normal. But sticking with what you just said, Ian, just to, in a way, play devil's advocate. Guys, what if I told you, you know what? Maybe guns isn't the answer. Maybe we need to get rid of guns. That's why there's so much shooting in the Cape Flats. That's why these innocent people are dying. Why don't we just get rid of guns and only allow the cops or certain people to, like security companies or whatever, to have those guns? Or even better yet, why don't we just eliminate guns completely, as some people in certain circles will say? Gideon, what do you have to say to that? And then I'll pass it on to Ian.
Jeepers, that's like an hour-long discussion about why that wouldn't work in itself. But I'll give you the big picture overview. So the first one is, let's say I'm a wizard. okay, the most powerful wizard in the universe, and I snap my fingers, and every civilian-owned gun in South Africa is gone. Okay, they have to be confiscated by the police because the guns, unfortunately, won't just disappear into nothingness. Okay, I'm not that powerful, so the cops have to go and they have to confiscate between 3 and 6 million firearms from their lawfully held civilians. Okay, this far exceeds the number of firearms owned by the state, which I think the police only own about 500,000. So you add 6 million to it. Bear in mind that one corrupt policeman, Chris Prinsloo, just by himself, stole without being detected for a long time and sold 9,000 guns at least. We know of 9,000 guns that this guy sold by himself to gangs and criminals, and his colleagues are still busy selling guns to at such a rate that Mark Shaw in his book refers to the state as the single biggest supplier of firearms and ammunition to criminals with no competition. 9.5 million rounds of ammunition went missing in the past 6 years out of SAP stores. So if we disarm the population, there will be no shortage of guns in criminal hands. None at all. And this is excluding the stuff coming in from overseas, or not overseas, from across our borders. It excludes the stuff that's locally manufactured. So long story short, getting rid of guns is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Equally, stricter gun control hasn't worked because even though we make it difficult for ordinary people to obtain licenses, if you are a criminal with sufficient connections, you just buy your license these days. And some dude at the Central Farms Registry gives you a legitimate license fraudulently issued to your name, because that's how corrupt the system is, because it's that transparent. I mean, untransparent, that opaque. If you wanted an anti-tank weapon, you could get one, because those things are circulating now. So the whole thing is, we are, and the reason why this is all folly is focusing on controlling objects in order to change behavior or address crime is a whole misunderstanding of causal direction. The existence of guns isn't what's causing the violence. The desire for violent actors to perpetrate acts of violence is what's driving demand for firearms. So that's the causal direction. That's why they want guns. If they, didn't have guns, they'd find them somewhere. The black market's extremely efficient. So what you actually want to address is say, let's address violence itself as opposed to the implements, because that ain't going to work. Not even China's gun-free. Japan, all its claims for being gun-free, absolute nonsense. But that's a whole nother social dynamic. Even intra-country comparisons, it doesn't work. Yeah. So I would love to give these people good news and be like, you got me. If we just all gave up our guns, the entire story would change magically. But no. Unfortunately for them, doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah, and Ian, I'm going to pass the same question to you, but slightly different, because I saw once your bestie, Becky Tere, once was on the news and said that the criminals, the reason why people shouldn't own guns is because criminals are breaking into their house. The people who own guns legally, or the criminals are breaking into their houses and stealing those guns. Comment, please.
I don't actually know how to respond to that guy anymore, to be honest. But he actually, let's rather not be rude. I think, look, the big thing is, as Gideon correctly said, is that the police supply thousands of firearms, whether willingly or not. I mean, that we can argue. I believe a lot of it is willingly. I think they are just blatant criminals in the South African police service. And I know there are good people there, but I always come back to the Eskom example. We can't say, there are good cops out there. Luckily, we have them. We know that, but it's the same as saying, luckily, we've got electricity now and then. We know that, but we need electricity the whole time because there are, an economy, there's a country to run. The point is that they do supply thousands of firearms to criminals. I mean, it's probably the number one choice handgun for gangs in and around Cape Town is a Z88, which is an old state or specifically police issued firearm. So that's just how it is. I think in terms of institutions, the police in South Africa, the South African Police Service is probably the biggest supplier, the biggest individual supplier as an institution of firearms to criminals. I mean, the Chris Prinsloo case that Gideon mentioned is a perfect example of this. And I mean, there's no doubt that it is still continuing. And on top of that, it, in my opinion, would have been impossible for Prinsloo to do all that without anyone knowing. I mean, he had a little network that was made public later, but there must have been more people. And I mean, the amount of gangsters that got firearms from him, surely more people knew about it. So it just goes to show how corrupt the entire value chain really is, and how big the value chain is, and what role the police play. We must never underestimate how well organized and how deeply rooted corruption and organized crime in South Africa is. We mustn't underestimate that the very government that we have has built a lot of its foundation on corruption and organized crime. It's what the ANC, in my opinion, does best. They are cancerous, corrupt, criminal cesspool. I don't know how else to describe them. I wish there were stronger words, but they are. That's who and what they are. That's their fiber. It's what they are made of, and yeah, we need to understand that it's not just a handful of criminals. There are hundreds of thousands of dangerous people in South Africa that are involved with this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, boys, we're nearing the end of the stream, and I just have time for one more question, which was given in by Voot, and I think we did touch on it a little bit. But can landowners shoot people or dogs hunting on their property?
Ooh, that sounds like a treacherous legal advice question, because so no, you can't shoot people when they're trespassing. Let me just put that out there. You can only shoot people under an extremely limited set of circumstances, and that's usually where they are posing an imminent threat to life and limb to innocent life. Okay, either yours or a third party. Dogs are a different story because dogs are property and not persons. But if you maliciously kill someone's dog, you can still be charged with malicious destruction of property and that sort of stuff, and be held liable there, either criminally or civilly. So, dealing with trespassers is always a tricky one. But here's the cool part. I recommend people go read sections 39, 42, and all the other relevant add-ons to Section 42 of the Criminal Procedures Act, because it describes your powers as an ordinary citizen pertaining citizens arrest and dealing with these sorts of things in quite good detail. And in fact, I recommend everyone read that section of the CPA. It's a great place to start, and it will probably help answer this particular question. Ian, I'm just going to kick that ball to Ian and see what he wants to say about it.
It's the principle of taking a life, to take a life to save a life. If your life's not being threatened at that moment, no, you can't. It's as simple as that. Very frustrating because in parts of the country, I mean, where I lived in Limpopo about just over a year ago, there would be groups, well, not even groups, one or two guys with 30 plus dogs, and they'd be hunting with those dogs on a farm. And they just caused so much destruction. And they were so malicious at one stage that if they were to be caught or chased away, they would, for example, stab holes in the water tanks and then let the water tanks leak out. That kind of thing. So it's very challenging because the police don't have the will or the expertise to catch these people. And I don't think they even know how to charge them properly. And never mind, even I'm not even mentioning the prosecution process. So challenging. Point is, take a life to save a life. You can't shoot someone for trespassing. One, you can't shoot someone for hunting. You can only shoot or defend yourselves otherwise if your life or someone else's life is in danger.
Perfect. All right, gents, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this evening. I'm going to pass the ball to both of you. We'll start with Ian. Ian, where can people reach you? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I have linked their Twitter, both gents' Twitter, in the description below, as well as the website to Action Society, and Gideon's Paratus YouTube channel is also in the description. But Ian, where else can people reach you? And anything else you want to say in closing, please, now is your chance.
No, just thank you very much. It was lucky to spend some time with you. Please follow the links as Joe mentioned, and you're more than welcome to reach out if you need help or assistance or advice. We'll always try to be of service.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. And Gideon?
Same. Please find me at paratus.info or on my Twitters, which I spend far too much time on. It's not very productive, but it's always good chatting to you. And thanks for the questions, guys. They were actually pretty solid. And yet, if they want myself, you and Ian to do a follow up on this, I'm always game. I always enjoy talking about this topic, and I think it's something that's more relevant than ever, and hopefully stays relevant. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you both once again. And yes, Gideon, we will do a follow-up for sure. At some point, we'll rally up some questions again. So for those of you that are watching this after the fact, please, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll look at them, and then I'll arrange another time where I can have these gents on the show. And obviously, anytime there's other pressing matters to talk about, I'll have either one on the show as well. Thank you guys once again for joining me, and I'll chat to you guys soon. Good night.
Cheers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was Ian Cameron and Gideon Joubert. Ian Cameron from Action Society and Gideon Joubert from Paratus. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, man. I did miss one or two questions. I'm really sorry we're running out of time. I will keep them for next time if we do another stream. So please, if you enjoy this, you want me to have Ian and Gideon back on, give a like, share, all that stuff, but don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, very important, tomorrow evening I have Herman Ruas on the show. We're going to talk about EWC, expropriation without compensation, and why you as a South African shouldn't be too worried about EWC. The answer may shock you, but that's tomorrow evening. As always, he'll be joining me at 8 p.m. The show will start at 7 p.m. You hang out with me for an hour, and then my guests join me. And as always, the 1 hour interview will be up on my channel at a later stage, so you can always catch up if you don't have time to watch the full 2 hours. You can look out for it at another time, and you can just watch the hour show. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bradley, thank you for tuning in. Gavin, Dylan, Graham, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you here, buddy. Voot, thank you so much for tuning in. Hank Klopper, Kingfish, you guys were all awesome. Herman Ruas, thank you. Umlungu, thank you so much. And Sean, thank you so much. Deborah Oliver as well. And Jean-Martin Clark was also here. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow evening. Until then, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.